Morning, everybody. Hope the Passover week is going well. Today's Wednesday, and I want to just share with you that we started a mitzvah that we began on the second night of Passover, which is counting. Counting, we call it Svira, which means counting. And what we're doing is we're counting the days. It's a countdown. We're counting the days between Passover and Shavuos. And simple question, why do we count those days? So I want to share with you something that I think is really important to keep in mind. You know, we talk about Passover as being Zman Cheruseinu, the time of our freedom. But the truth of the matter is, it's really not the culmination or the completion of the time of our freedom, because we also know, it says in Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of Our Fathers, Ein lecha ben chorin elami she'osek ba'Torah, that the only truly free person, the only person that really can experience freedom in the truest sense is a Jewish person. For a Jewish person, is if you're connected to Torah in some meaningful way. Because the Torah is our guidebook. It allows us to figure out how to deal with that balance between our body and our soul and the struggles and challenges of the spiritual and the physical. You need the Torah, you need the guidelines, the directions, the clarity, the wisdom of the Torah to truly be free. Now, if that's the case, Passover, we left Egypt, but we didn't receive the Torah until when? Shavuot, 50 days later, on the festival of Shavuos, which we'll be celebrating in a little over a month and a half, which is the celebration of when the Jewish people received the Torah. So if that's the case, how can Passover be the time of our freedom? If we hadn't received the Torah until 50 days later, and we're not free according to Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of Our Fathers, until we have the Torah. And the answer is that Passover is not the time of our freedom, meaning the completion of it. It's the beginning of the process. The culmination, the total completion of the process of Passover is when? Shavuot, when we receive the Torah. Because like I said, the Torah is what's going to lead us and guide us to total self-fulfillment, to self-actualization, which is true freedom. Without the Torah, as Jews, we can't get there. So we need the Torah, which comes on Shavuot. So Passover is just the beginning of the process, which is perhaps one of the reasons why we are told to count the days between Passover and Shavuos, because we're not supposed to see them as separate, independent holidays. They're not. They're bookends. They're connected to one another as one long process of beginning with slavery, freedom from slavery in the most physical sense, and ultimately leading to freedom in the absolute total sense, in the spiritual complete sense, when we receive the Torah 50 days later. Which is interesting because in the Torah it actually mentions the concept of leaving Egypt 50 times. Go count up, give it a shot. I'm sure you'll count the 50 times in the Torah the idea is mentioned. Why? Because there are 50 steps to leaving Egypt. You don't just leave it overnight. You know, you can't just change your mentality immediately from being a servant, a slave in Egypt, to being a free Jewish person who received the Torah. It's a process. These are the days to work on that process. So that's why we count down these days to connect these two holidays. Have a great day, everybody.